affirmation that the grace of God is with me always. The grace of God is with us always. All of us, all the time, no matter what appearances seem to show. So I'm going to invite us, those of us that can, just to quietly close our eyes. Not if you're driving, but just quietly close your eyes, settle into your seat. Allow your feet to connect with the floor and your hands to rest on your lap or wherever they're comfortable. Just feel yourself seated in the chair you're in right now. Just feel where you are right now. That's where we always need to start from, where we are right now. And from that place, we take a few breaths. So we can get in touch with that breath moving in and out of our body. And the body that is providing our viewpoint for this moment. We allow ourselves to be present with that body and with that breath. Feeling what it feels like. Breathing into whatever is going on around us. And just allowing things to quiet down. To slow down a little. Allowing ourselves to bring our focus just to the place where we're sitting. Just to the place where we're sitting. Just to the breath that we're breathing. Just to that life that is living in and through us right now. That's our soul's point of view. That's the real us. That life, that energy, that Godness that is being us where we are. So we let ourselves breathe into that. We know that it knows exactly what we need. And that it is currently making that available to us. It always does. That what we need is available to us here and now in this moment. Because in this moment we are enfolded and infilled by the presence in the Spirit of perfect love, perfect creation, perfect life. So let's just silently be with that and with our breath for a few minutes. One presence, one power, living in and through each of us. Connecting us all in a sacred and holy unity. May we keep our hearts and minds open to that presence, to feel that, to allow it to guide us and lead us through this service, through our congregational meeting, through our day and our week and our life. it is always willing to do that as we are willing to allow. I'm going to close with the music that I was going to open with.
We are holy, holy, holy. We are holy, holy, holy. We are holy, holy, holy. We are whole. We are holy, holy, holy. We are holy, holy, holy. We are holy, holy, holy. We are whole. We are holy, Spirit divine. Holy, come to me. Holy, feeling love. Holy, healing me. Holy, open my heart. Holy, allow me to see. Beauty and love, we are whole, lives in me. You are holy, holy, holy. 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 I am holy, Spirit divine. Holy, come to me. Holy, feeling love. Holy, healing me. Holy, open my heart. Holy, allow me to see. Holy, beauty and love. We are whole, surrounding me. I am holy, holy, holy. I am holy, holy, holy. I am holy, holy, holy. I am holy, 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 holy. I am holy, holy, holy. I am holy, holy, holy.
Just let that settle in for a second. And when you're ready, come back and join us here. I've always appreciated that little chant because it reminds me of what's true all the time, whether I remember it or not. True about me, true about you, true for everyone. So, again, welcome to Unity of Charlotte. I'm Jim Fuller. I'm your minister for the day, and I'm also your comedy host. I have a little joke to share with you that another minister friend of mine shared. It's kind of appropriate for our times. A guy named Charlie was out of work and in need of a job. A lot of people like that now. And he finally found an opening at a company that he knew he could probably land. And so he set an appointment and he had an interview set up, and he headed out a little early to get to the interview and headed to the business park and started going through the parking deck looking for a parking place. And he went all the way through the parking deck. Not a space to be seen. He thought, well, obviously there's a space somewhere. So he goes through the parking deck one more time and not a space to be seen. Oh my. So Charlie heads out and he says, well, I'll go around the block. I'll find some on-street parking. Well, it was a busy area. There was no on-street parking. He pulls back into the parking lot for one more try because he just has time. And he goes through and he makes it all the way up to the roof of the parking deck and not an empty spot to be seen. So Charlie does what a lot of us do when we come to the end and we can't figure out what to do. He actually prays. He says, closes his eyes and goes, dear God, I know I haven't always been the most dedicated person, but I really need this job. I really need a parking space. I need the interview. So I tell you what, God, you get me a parking space. I'll quit going to the bars after work and I'll go to mass every Sunday. And he opens his eyes and right in front of him, an empty parking space. And Charlie looks up and he says, never mind, God, I'll handle it from here. It's what we often do, isn't it? Never mind, God, I'll handle it here. Well, today I'm going to talk, I think, a little more like a unity minister and less like a guest speaker. I mean, I'm a member of the congregation, but I've been a unity minister for many years. And as you probably noticed, I may have started talking like that a little bit last week. As a unity minister, I feel a strong sense of connection and responsibility for all unity ministries. I've served on regional boards and done things like that. So, I mean, it's a lot bigger than you are. We are a lot bigger than one congregation. We often forget that. And in a time when many denominations are seeing their numbers really tumble, unity is staying pretty darn strong. We are the largest, strongest of the New Thought denominations or groups out there. And that speaks pretty well for unity and its teachings. For me, unity has always been an answer to a prayer. It's a place with a big enough umbrella that I can work within that framework, that you can. It's a place where spiritual students and seekers with varieties of interests and perspectives can come together and learn and practice. It's a place where, if you grew up Catholic, you don't have to give up your Catholic prayer practices or your Buddhist prayer practices or your Quaker prayer practices. You can bring them with you and we'll share those. It's a place where we can study unity writings in the Bible and other sacred writings and teachings. I was delighted when I found unity in the early 90s, which I actually found at Unity of Charlotte, as most of you know. So I feel sort of a sense of connection and indebtedness to this particular congregation. And while Kay and I were away for many years as I was doing church and at Unity Village and such, when we came back into town to visit, we always made it a point to come by whenever we could. I made it a point to check in with the ministers that were here as I came through. And when we got back to town 4 years ago, meeting with Nancy Ennis for lunch was one of our top priorities. I want you guys to know that we, and I hope you, continue to hold her and Bob in your hearts. Just surround them in love. Know that it's working out perfectly. Well, today, after this talk, whenever this gets to end now, because we got started a little late, we're going to have a congregational meeting and a very important vote. And my prayer today is that this meeting and this vote and this movement we're taking is the beginning of what I spoke of last week as a spiritual course correction. Spiritual course correction that will help this church begin moving forward. And that's what I'm going to talk about today, is moving forward. Here's an interesting scientific fact for you. Wherever you are standing or sitting is the absolute center of the universe. Because it's an infinite universe. Wherever you are, it goes out infinitely from there, right? Now, what that also means is that wherever you're sitting or standing, forward looks different to you than it looks to me or to the person beside you. Sometimes drastically different. I suspect that's why families and organizations and churches have difficulty, because from a human perspective, moving forward can mean 1,000 different things. It's all about perception. share a little paragraph out of A Course in Miracles with you that I read a couple of months ago that's really stuck with me. It's about how our perception is formed by us looking out and seeing what's inside. It starts off this way, the paragraph. Projection makes our perception. The world you see is what you gave it, and nothing more than that. But though it is no more than that, it's not less. Therefore, it is important to you. It is a witness to your state of mind, an outside picture of an inward condition. It paraphrases the famous proverb, as a man thinketh, so does he perceive. Perception is a result, not a cause. It goes on to say, everything looked upon with vision, with sacred or spiritual sight, everything looked upon with vision is healed and holy. Nothing perceived without vision means anything. And where there is no meaning, there is chaos. There is chaos. That's the spiritual dilemma we often find ourselves in. Some sort of chaos. Look at the world around us. Oh my gosh. The way out individually or as a community, is to find that vision, that higher, that spiritual vision, something beyond our human perceptions. I suspect that's why some ancient Hebrew writer gave us the story of Moses and the children of Israel wandering for 40 years in the desert. You got to realize, I looked on a map, the distance for them to cover was about 300 miles. Even somebody as out of shape as me could walk that easily in 3 or 4 weeks. That's a month, that's 30 days. But according to the story, they wandered for 40 years. Of course, a lot of people will say it's because there were guys in charge and they wouldn't ask for directions, right? But anyway, it's important for us to understand that this, like most of the stories in the Bible, is a parable. It's a metaphor. It's not actual history. Bible archaeologists have searched for years looking for evidence of wandering groups of people in that section of the desert. Guess what? There isn't any. Historians have looked at the records of the Egyptians for records of large groups of Hebrew slaves being kept in Egypt. Egyptians were great record keepers. Guess what? No record. It's a parable. So, why does the storyteller, why does this Hebrew storyteller give us the story of 40 years wandering in the desert? Well, within Hebrew numerology, 40 represents the number of a new beginning. It's a foundational number, okay? Jesus goes off in the desert to pray for 40 days before he starts his ministry once he's inspired. The lives of Moses and other patriarchs are broken into 40-year segments before they go and do the next thing. So that's part of the 40-year things. So perhaps the story is about people wandering for 40 years until they're ready finally to start something new. Or, as other historians have suggested, perhaps the 40 years would be equivalent to 2 generations, 2 20-year generations. And perhaps, they say, it took time for 2 generations, 2 old generations to die off before they could move into the new land, into the new place. You know, you can't move into a new free land with old enslaved thinking. Jesus comments about this too when he says, you can't pour new wine into old wineskins. You can't pour new wine into old wineskins. You can't pour fresh ideas, fresh spirit. The old wineskins can't handle it. They'll burst, they'll tear, they'll come apart. Old wineskins are limited in what they can hold. If you want to move forward, you have to release the old container. You can't patch it up and carry it leaking and dripping with you along the way. That won't work. And you know, that's tough for us, humanly speaking, because sometimes we feel like we're going to come apart when we have to move into something new, when we have to let go of the past and move forward, make a real change. Well, from these stories and comments and others, what a wandering tribe or a wandering congregation needs is to find a higher or a new vision. New wine, right? Not to patch up the old vision that led it out into the desert in the first place, and not to cling to the old ideas and practices that kept us wandering for years. You know, reflecting on the troubles of his lifetime, Albert Einstein wrote, "The significant problems we face cannot be solved at the same level of thinking we were at when we created them." The significant problems we face cannot be solved at the same level of thinking we were at when we created them. That's a hard thing for a lot of people to hear, that God doesn't give us problems. We do pretty well at that ourselves. A question we might want to ask, particularly going into the meeting today, is, how long has it been since this church has been vibrant and prosperous? Vibrant and prosperous? No offense to our collective human smartness, but it looks to me like there's a need for a higher vision, a releasing of old patterns and old ways and old habits. And I'll tell you a little secret. Finding that kind of a vision actually takes some work. It takes some conscious, focused work over time. Yes, it takes collective prayer, and we will need to do that, but it also takes a lot of communication, a high degree of transparency and personal honesty. Anything less, and as somebody commented, we simply kick the can down the road, kick the problem down the road for someone to deal with years later. I know some of you have expressed feeling frustrated at times. I feel that way at times. Since my return to Charlotte, I've bumped into casually a number of people who used to attend here, including some board members, quite a few. Each shared some frustrations and disillusionments with their experiences. I know as a Unity minister, several times I have offered to help support the church in various ways. I did that when Nancy was leaving. I did that before Marty came in. I've done it again recently. I've encouraged the people I've spoken with not to go my way, but to adopt some of Unity's best practices. Unity has beautiful organizational materials, things that are designed to help structure a successful and prosperous church. They work in a lot of churches. I've used them. I have many minister friends who've used them. They're good. So there's good programs, there's good materials and resources available, including things to help deal with some of the past hurts and maybe get some of those people that used to attend back in here with us, right? Absolutely no reason we can't do that. Absolutely no reason they can't be part of our growth and our prosperity. Now, pretty soon, if all goes as planned, this church is going to be on the market, and I bet it sells pretty well. And that's good news. But it also means that we're going to have some money. And sometimes when you've got money in your pocket, you slip back into old business as usual practices. That's not good news. The good news is at some point you could hire a Unity consultant, maybe a Unity interim ministry. You've done that a couple of times in the past to help reorganize. Both of those can help and can succeed, but it takes the entire community working together to do that. It takes people listening, communicating, praying, looking at business practices, looking at church practices, not saying, we got some money, thanks God, we'll take it from here. Over my life, I've learned that it's true that if we really want to succeed and prosper, and if we actually want to help others, which hopefully is part of the mission of this church, We have to tap into something beyond our human wisdom and our personal smartness. You know, many of us are well educated, many of us have all kinds of business experience, but the universe has its own agenda. I often like to ask, you know, what is the universe doing right now? What is God doing? What is God trying to do right now, trying to do with us? You know, and what's our part? What's my part? Let's get personal. What's my part in what God is trying to do here? When I can figure that out, when we can figure that out as a community, we can begin partnering with God. Often we want to get God to partner with us. It works a lot better if we can flip that around and figure out what is creation, what is God wanting to do at this point through this ministry, and then partner with God. A minister friend of mine once commented that, you know, there's no spare parts in God's creation. I like that. I forget where they said no spare parts or no extra parts, but no spare parts in God's creation. Each one of us, each part has an important and significant role to play. When we play it, it works beautifully. You have a part, I have a part, our community has a part, unity has a part. As I said last week, the falling apart that we're currently experiencing is a symptom. It's an indicator or an effect, a sign that the way we've been doing church or doing business or doing communication, I think that's a piece of it, needs to change. Some people are going to have a hard time accepting that. It's going to seem humiliating to some. I know I've had to change at times. It felt very humiliating, but you know, humiliating and humility are very closely linked. And humility is a virtue. It's actually extremely helpful. Extremely helpful. The willingness to limit our personal or human, the willingness to acknowledge our personal or human limitations is exactly the kind of opening that God needs, that the universe needs, in order to begin showing us the way out of the desert. Right? It's only when we have some opening that we can be shown collectively the way out. I've often said there is absolutely no reason that Unity of Charlotte is not a thriving, prosperous ministry. Absolutely no reason. It should be, can be, shall be. It shall be. And there's no reason that Unity of Charlotte needs to wander for another 40 years or even 40 months. We, as a community, I think, have every reason to be optimistic that good is here for us and can begin to emerge as we begin to openly and honestly look at where we are, how we got there, and then prayerfully, inquiring, ask, which way is forward? Not just from my perspective, not just from somebody else's perspective, but from the divine perspective. Remember, this is a friendly universe. I said that last week. I mean it. We are all deeply loved and held. And that universe is moving us out of our stuck places toward the good that's already here for us. Last week, I offered a prescription for all of our problems. You remember that? I said it was a prescription for the problems of the church, the prescription for the problems with the epidemic, the prescription for the problems with the political unrest around us. The prescription last week, I said, was be kind to yourself, to those around you, right? And really listen. Really listen. When we really listen, sometimes we even hear God. This week, I would probably add to become searchingly honest. Searchingly honest. Maybe uncomfortably transparent. Perhaps a bit more humble with each other and with ourselves. You know, Jesus says, kind of warns, you can't put new wine into old wineskins. The old wineskins can't hold it. They're going to tear and they're going to burst. You need new vessels, new minds, new thinking, things that are willing to embrace new ideas, new ideals, new practices. Then you can go forward. Course in Miracles advises us that what we see, our perception of the world, is what we gave it. Our perception of the church, it's what we gave it. Nothing more, but nothing less. It's nothing less. And therefore it says, don't seek to change the world, seek to change your mind. Because what you're seeing is not a cause, it's an effect. It also reminds us that everything's seen with vision from a higher perspective, a spiritual perspective, already healed and holy. Nothing perceived without vision has any meaning at all. And where there's no meaning, that's where the chaos is. As part of Unity, we're fortunate. We have good tools. We have good resources available to us right now. Good tools and resources. The only question for us this week is, will we use them now? Or will we wander a little bit longer? I'm going to share an affirmation with you. I'm going to have to jump through some slides here, excuse me. I'm going to share an affirmation that we can read together. There we go. Get rid of this so I can see. Well, that's not the one I wanted. There we go. Affirmation for this week. We can read this together. Together, the Spirit of God is guiding me to a new and higher vision. I release my old ways of thinking and doing, and I step forward to welcome the good that awaits me now. Let's read that again. The Spirit of God is guiding me to a new and higher vision. I release my old ways of thinking and doing and step forward to welcome the good that awaits me now. And then for our congregation, let's read this slightly different version that says, the Spirit of God is guiding us to a new and higher vision. We release our old ways of thinking and doing and step forward to welcome the good that awaits us now. Close your eyes. Let that thought settle in. Individually and collectively. Individually and collectively, we are in the process of being guided. Right now, every moment, every day. We have the ability to release the past and to open to a new and higher vision. To discover what God is doing right now and to become a part of that. To do that will be releasing many old things, old wineskins that just can't hold the new spirit, the new juice that is here for Unity of Charlotte. May we decide today to collectively step forward, embrace that good that waits for us. Embrace the good that is here for Unity of Charlotte right now. So let's open our eyes and read that together one more time. Together, the Spirit of God is guiding us to a new and higher vision. We release our old ways of thinking and doing and step forward to welcome the good that awaits us now. And so it is. Well, that's my thought as a Unity minister. And please know that I love and care for everybody here, that you are my family. And I understand that, and I hope we will all understand that about each other as we move forward into this future together. Right now, I'm going to flip up a couple of slides for us because there's people watching from home, and I know there's people in the congregation there and sitting there, a number of people. I saw that was really nice. It's going to be time for our offertory. So there we go. So for those of you that are watching through Zoom at home, I'll remind you that you can mail your tithes and offerings to Unity of Charlotte at 401 East Arrowwood Road. Or you can just go to the website, unityofcharlotte.org, like I did this morning, and donate online. And you get an almost immediate response of an email letting you know that your donation came in. For those of you that are in the chapel today and the sanctuary, there is a plate by the door, and we would greatly appreciate it if you would simply place your offerings in that offering plate by the door so we don't have to pass a plate around. That's a lot tidier way to do things right now. In the meantime, I invite you to hold whatever you're offering today, whatever you're planning to give, whether you've given it or you're preparing to give it. Just hold it, even mentally, in your heart and in your mind. Hold that. And we'll share our prosperity blessing together. Together we say, joyously, I give this gift, knowing the divine presence blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. All right. In just a second, we're going to close with our prayer of protection. For those of you in the sanctuary, please do not join hands. I know it's an old habit. If you're there with somebody in your family, obviously you can. But you can do what I invite the people at home to do every week, which is literally to reach out and take the hand of the angel or the divine being, the light being beside you, and connect that way. And I'll remind everyone to please stay with us for the meeting that takes place afterwards. So let me get us to our affirmation slide here, to our prayer of protection slide. There we go. So connected hand to hand, heart to heart with the divine all around us. The divine all around us. Let us say together, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.